Hello, welcome to the Saroy channel. I've got a lovely story for you that happened in Anchorage, Alaska, and I really think you're going to enjoy it. It's all about a Bigfoot stalking a cabin. So let's get started. Dear Sarah, and all your listeners, hello, my name is Esther, and I'm writing to you from Illinois. I have a Bigfoot story for you that I hope your listeners may find of interest. My story happened in 2003. Shortly after my father had passed away from end-stage liver disease. I was naturally very devastated by his death, but also partly relieved that it was all over. I was exhausted, drained, and tired, and also very sad, but I knew that I needed a break. I decided to book a week away in a luxury cabin in Anchorage, Alaska, and off I went on a brand new adventure, and I was extremely excited. I do need to tell you that I am a scatty person, and this is very relevant to my story. On one occasion, I kid you not, I was shopping at Walmart and I bought myself 10 pairs of knickers. When I returned home, I could not find that package of knickers anywhere. Months passed, and one day I retrieved a limp package from my freezer, and yes, it was 10 pairs of frozen knickers. I have been known to turn up for work with one red shoe on one foot and a green one on another. On other occasions, I have walked down the street with slippers on without realizing I wasn't wearing shoes. So yes, I'm scatty, and I'm not making any apologies for it because that's who I am. I arrived at the welcome desk in Anchorage to get my keys to my cabin. It was already getting dark outside as early evening had finally approached. "Hello, welcome," said the lady. "Ever been to Anchorage before?" "No, never," I said. "You're going to love it here," she continued, giving me the key to my cabin. "Now, there are rogue bears wandering around," she warned. "Be careful. We have provided all the cabins with bear sprays. The fridges are well stocked, and your fireplace is all prepared. All you need to do is light the fire starter, and the fire will get going for you." "Thank you," I said, feeling a rush of excitement all of a sudden. It was a long time since I'd felt this good. The air outside was so lovely, crisp and fresh, and I could just sense I was going to have a fantastic time here. The lady presented me with a map. "We are here," she said, pointing to the location of the welcome office. "Now you need to turn right, then left. It is a fair way, but you'll get there. It's number 1 Bumblebee Cabin. Oh, and here," she said suddenly, sliding into my hands a thick wad of brochures. "Just things to do in Alaska," she said, smiling at me. "Enjoy your stay with us, and don't forget to call the office if you need anything. Someone's always on hand here, day or night, all hours." "Thank you," I said, getting into my hired car and then driving down the road. It was quite a long road that seemed to go on forever. Did she say turn right, I thought. I peered down at the thick pile of brochures she had given me, which had now fallen under my feet in the front seat. Now, where's the address, I thought. Oh yes, I remember, it's number 1 Bumblebee. I went past so many cabins as I drove by. They were all beautiful, with private areas surrounded by natural rambling vegetation and forests with their own private scenic areas. This is better than I imagined, I thought, as I continued to drive. Wow, this chalet is a long way away. Finally, I found it, but I was surprised my cabin seemed to be the furthest away from the welcome center. It was very secluded and private, and it really was built in front of a natural forest. Wow, I thought, climbing out of the car, eagerly stretching my legs. This is truly breathtaking, beautiful, and it truly was. The views were idyllic and awe-inspiring. I could see the scenic Alaskan mountains and forest in the distance. I had really never ever been to a place as beautiful as this. I was starting to shiver with cold because the temperature had suddenly dropped and I started to freeze. I caught a faint smell that did not smell great, rather like rotting dead animal or something. I gave it no thought. I was too happy to let anything get me down. I was shuffling around for my keys. Where did I put them, I wondered. I looked everywhere and I simply couldn't find them. That is me for you, as scatty as they come. I pushed the front door of the cabin, and to my surprise it opened easily, and I was relieved to find another set of keys in the lock. Wow, that's organized, I thought, opening the door happily and walking inside the coziest looking cabin. The cabin was huge and luxuriously decorated. Every room was fitted with huge, strong glass windows that overlooked the most beautiful views. I found myself staring out of the windows in awe, almost holding my breath because everything was so magnificent. One of the first things I did was to look into the fridge. It was well stocked with all kinds of delicious things, but the weird thing was that there was a plate on the side next to the sink with some crumbs on it and 2 coffee mugs that had clearly been drunk out of. How odd, I thought. They did not clear up after their previous guests. That's a bit untidy. Another thing that seemed rather off was that the main bedroom, where I intended to sleep, was covered in ruffled sheets that had clearly been slept in. You would have thought that I would have phoned the office to complain, but not me. I simply threw the sheets into a nearby washing basket and took out some new ones from the linen cupboard that was well stocked with towels, sheets, blankets, and extra bed linen. I made the bed, washed the dirty dishes, and then went to light the fire in the main bedroom and living area. I sat down near the fire as it started to crackle and spit out its flames. I lay back on the beautiful cozy couch and drank warm hot chocolate. Suddenly I saw a black bear walking outside my cabin and sniffing the ground. He was beautiful, and I watched him for a long while as he padded around the area outside my cabin. He looked so cuddly, I thought, knowing full well that these animals can be formidable. After eating a plateful of delicious homemade fettuccine pasta and a large big chocolate brownie washed down with still more hot chocolate, I continued to watch the bear. He did leave for a while and come back. It was still night outside, but getting a little darker, so I decided to turn in for the night. I noticed the bear suddenly seemed afraid. He sniffed the air once and then twice and bolted away so fast I could hardly believe it. Something clearly rattled his cage, I thought, as I yawned and pulled the covers over my body, finally falling into a deep, very serene sleep. I am the kind of person who can sleep through almost anything without waking up. So I was surprised to wake up to the most horrible thudding sound on my cabin. Bang, 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 I heard. I literally jumped out of my skin when I heard the noise. What the heck was that, I thought. It was not windy outside, or was it? I listened. No, it definitely was not windy out there, I thought. The banging started again, this time getting louder. 1, 2, 3. It would then stop, and again it would get louder. It sounded so intentional, like something was deliberately trying to scare the hell out of me. I was growing increasingly anxious. Who was making that noise? Maybe it was the bear I saw earlier, I thought. Bears are notorious for making a lot of noise, and they can be pretty cat-handed with things, I told myself. I thought about the bears that I'd seen in the past raiding rubbish bins. Yes, that noise did sound a lot like them, I thought. It was then that I heard the most horrible scream. It was so terrifying that it almost sounded like a woman being murdered. I froze in fear and sat motionless on my bed, barely moving a muscle. The scream happened again, 2 more times, and then things became quiet for a while. I did think of calling the welcome centre, but decided against it. I did not want to come across as a neurotic guest, overreacting to some sounds of the night. The noises had stopped for a while, and so I decided to get up and make myself a cup of coffee, even though it was the middle of the night. It'll calm my nerves, I thought. I went into the kitchen and pressed the light switches all at once. The light in the kitchen came on suddenly, but so did the outside light that lit up the whole outside of the cabin. I was pleased there was an outside light because it made the area outside my cabin feel safer. After all, it's what you don't see that can be more frightening. It was at that moment I saw a huge face looking at me through the window. The creature stood at about 7 foot tall, and he was so gargantuan. I do not think I'm exaggerating in saying he was about 900 pounds. I got the whole body view of him. Truly, he was monstrous. He had very exaggerated bicep muscles that literally popped through his skin, if you know what I mean. The creature was humanoid, standing on 2 feet, and he was hairy all over his body. I think he was covered in black hair. At least it looked black to me, but it was dark outside. The one thing that I noticed were those eyes, and it was the expression of those eyes that told me everything. It was like they were saying, "I want to kill you right now." I was so terrified I could not scream, and even if I could, I doubt anyone would have heard me. I quickly slammed the lights of the kitchen off because the creature continued to stare at me through the window. I could see he had no fear of humans whatsoever, and it looked as if he was very angry and enraged, and his anger was directed at me. I raced to my bedroom, jumped into the bed, pulled the sheets over my body. I was sweating so much from fear, even though it was so cold, that my nightshirt got quite wet. My heart continued to pound, but it eventually lessened when I heard the creature grunting, and then it sounded as if he was leaving. Thank goodness, I thought. The next morning I was determined to check out of my cabin in Anchorage. No, there is no way, I thought. I cannot stay here another night. I am going back home. When I got to the welcome desk, I told the lady that I was checking out. The lady looked puzzled. You're checking out already, she asked, sounding surprised. Were you not happy with your cabin? You were number 1 bumblebee, were you not? Yes, that's right, I said. But it's such a beautiful cabin, she said. Yes, I know, I said, but it's just, well, last night was not very comfortable. She looked up at me in surprise. Really, she asked. We never get any complaints about bumblebee. I mean, uncomfortable in the sense, well, I couldn't get any sleep because of the screaming and thumping outside of my cabin. You had bear trouble, she asked. I nodded. Your keys, please, she asked. I handed her my keys and she looked at them and then at me with even more confusion on her face. Why have you got the keys for number 1 Sunnybee, she asked. You were given the keys for number 1 Bumblebee, were you not? Yes, you've guessed it, Sarah. I had stayed in the wrong cabin because of my scattiness, confusing Bumblebee with Sunnybee. I was so embarrassed. Mistakes happen, the woman said kindly, tapping my hand reassuringly. Nobody usually stays at that cabin, she told me, with the exception of the other night when we were booked up and the guest insisted on staying there, but they left very quickly. It seems there's a bear there that is hugely territorial and does not like anyone staying there. It's close to the woods, you see. Well, to cut a long story short, I was persuaded to continue my stay in Anchorage, but in the right cabin, of course, and I did end up having a wonderful time. One thing I know for certain is that creature is being very territorial over the bee cabin, the sunny bee cabin that faces the forest. Bigfoot is definitely not a bear, of that I am certain. I hope your listeners enjoyed my story, and if it wasn't for my scattiness, I would not have a story to tell. Thank you so much for that lovely story. Until next time, good night.